Imagine waking up tomorrow morning in London, Paris, or Berlin, pulling out your credit card to pay for groceries, fuel, or even your morning coffee, and being told it doesn't work. Not because you don't have money in your account, not because of a bank glitch, but because two American companies have flipped a switch. Overnight, Visa and Mastercard, which together process more than $17 trillion in global transactions every year, could theoretically cut Europe off from its own economy. It sounds like a dystopian thriller, but this is the exact scenario European leaders are preparing for. And if you think it's impossible, just remember what happened in Russia when Visa and Mastercard pulled out after the invasion of Overnight, millions of people were cut off from global commerce. That move sent a chilling message not just to Moscow, but to every other country watching. Access to the financial system is not guaranteed. It is conditional, political, and ultimately, it's controlled by Washington. So here's the question: what if the next shutdown isn't aimed at an adversary, but at an ally? If America has already imposed tariffs on Canada, Europe, Japan, and South Korea, if Donald Trump has openly threatened to use economic, or even military pressure to buy Greenland, why would allies trust that the US won't one day use financial infrastructure as leverage? And the deeper question is this: are Europe and the UK sleepwalking into a crisis where Washington holds the financial kill switch to their entire economies? Let's pull this apart. Visa alone handled more than 230 billion transactions last year, with over $13 trillion in payment volume. Add Mastercard, and the figure jumps higher. In Europe, these two companies process nearly $5 trillion in payments annually. In Britain, over 95% of all card payments depend on their networks. That means nearly every purchase you make, whether at a supermarket checkout, a fuel pump, or an online store, relies on American-controlled infrastructure. Imagine life grinding to a halt not because of a war, but because one administration in Washington decided to flex its power. That's the risk European leaders are starting to talk about openly. This isn't paranoia. It's rooted in history. Think about Russia in 2022. Visa and Mastercard suspended services overnight. Russian citizens suddenly couldn't use their cards abroad or even make online payments on foreign websites. Commerce collapsed for ordinary people. The message was clear: these companies are not neutral utilities, they are extensions of US law, and they can be weaponized at any moment. John Cunliffe, the Deputy Governor of the Bank of England, has even compared it to the suspicion around American F-35 fighter jets. Some governments worry that the jets could contain hidden kill switches, meaning Washington could disable them remotely. Whether it's military hardware or financial infrastructure, the fear is the same: dependence equals vulnerability. And America has already proven it's willing to push its closest allies. Canada, for example, faced steep steel and aluminum tariffs under Trump's first and second terms. This wasn't an enemy country. It was one of the closest partners Washington has. Yet tariffs were slapped under the excuse of national security. Canada retaliated, but the damage was done. Greenland tells a similar story. Trump revived his bizarre idea of buying the territory in 2025, and this time, he added threats of economic and even military pressure if Denmark refused. Danish leaders called it unacceptable. Greenland's government called the rhetoric provocative. And yet Washington didn't back down. It kept up the pressure, sending delegations, talking up mining projects, and making it clear that if America wanted something, it was willing to use every lever available. Allies learned a lesson: friendship does not guarantee protection from American coercion. Now put those lessons together with the power Visa and Mastercard hold. Every European supermarket, every online purchase, every small business point-of-sale terminal is essentially plugged into a switch in the United States. If Washington ever decided to weaponize that control, the impact would be like turning off electricity. Daily life would stop instantly. Think about how fragile that is. And if you're wondering whether this is just alarmism, consider that European officials themselves are raising the alarm. Philip Lane, the chief economist of the European Central Bank, has warned bluntly that Europe's reliance on American payment systems leaves it dangerously exposed. His answer: strategic autonomy. So what does that mean in practice? Enter Wero, the European Payments Initiative. It's designed to be a homegrown digital wallet and unified payment system that could serve as an alternative to Visa and Mastercard. It's still in development, and nowhere near their global reach, but its very existence is a sign of how worried European leaders are. Alongside that, the digital euro is in the works. A central bank digital currency that would allow payments to move directly through ECB-controlled infrastructure. No Visa. No Mastercard. No risk of an American kill switch. The UK is taking a slightly different approach. London regulators are tightening oversight of payment firms, forcing them to safeguard customer funds and prepare for the possibility of foreign systems cutting them off. By 2026, new rules will force higher standards on payment operators to ensure Britain can keep its networks running independently. At the same time, the UK is leaning heavily into open banking. That means building systems where payments can be made directly from one bank account to another, bypassing card networks entirely. Imagine paying for groceries or rent without Visa, Mastercard, or even PayPal, just direct transfers through domestic rails. That's the future Britain is preparing for. And then there's the bigger question of the US dollar itself. Right now, the global economy runs on dollars. Most trade, most debt, most reserves are denominated in the greenback. And in times of crisis, central banks around the world rely on the Federal Reserve's dollar swap lines to keep their markets stable. That happened in 2008 during the financial crash, and again in 2020 during the pandemic. But what if Washington politicized those lifelines? What if access to dollar liquidity was granted only to countries that aligned with US foreign policy? European central bankers have already warned that such a scenario is no longer unthinkable. Which is why Europe is quietly urging banks to diversify funding sources, stress-testing their exposure to the dollar, and even floating the idea of pooling reserves to create their own safety net. All of this points in one direction: Europe and Britain no longer trust America to be a neutral steward of the financial system. The kill switch fear has forced them to start building firewalls, digital currencies, domestic payment systems, stricter regulations, and reduced reliance on the dollar. None of these are ready to replace Visa and Mastercard overnight, but the trajectory is unmistakable. Washington's leverage is being noticed, and allies are no longer willing to leave their economies at the mercy of American politics. So what happens if the day comes when Washington decides to pull the plug? What happens if a future Trump administration, or any administration, decides to punish Europe not with tariffs, but with the financial equivalent of shutting off the lights? Could Europe's economy survive 24 hours without Visa or Mastercard? Would Britain be able to keep its payments flowing? And most importantly, would this be the moment when the world realizes that American power doesn't just come from its military, but from its control over the invisible networks that keep the global economy alive? Those are the questions European leaders are asking right now. And the answers could reshape not just finance, but geopolitics. Because if Europe succeeds in building true payment sovereignty, it won't just be about independence from America. It could mark the beginning of a multipolar financial order, where Washington no longer holds the kill switch. That's not just a story about credit cards. It's a story about power, trust, and the future of global leadership. So what do you think? Is Europe right to prepare for the worst, or are these fears overblown? Could Visa and Mastercard really be used as weapons against allies? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I'll be reading. And if you've made it this far, you know this channel is about digging into the stories mainstream media barely scratches. If you want more independent analysis like this, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this video. Every click, every comment, every share helps keep this channel alive. And remember, the next time you tap your card at a store, you're part of a system that's bigger, more fragile, and more political than you think. Stick around, because the story of America's financial kill switch is only beginning.